So there's a few versions of this you can find, but they're all gonna cost you, if you're lucky, $500. Most likely it's gonna be over $1,000. You got deep pockets, you know, this is the way to go.
Godzilla, the original Japanese movie monster. He's had multiple movies over the past 60 years, and he's now immortalized as soft vinyl figures. Follow us and step inside the wild world of Japanese Sofubi. Sofubi, that's Japanese for soft vinyl. It's the original Kaiju toy and is unchanged from when they first started appearing in the 1960s. Kaiju means strange creature, by the way. And here in Japan, and for Kaiju fans around the world, Sofubi is still popular after all these years. Like, really, really popular. Real Sofubi is handmade. No machines or industrial assembly lines, and it's produced around Japan in small factories like this one.
私はマルサン6代目代表上永英二です。マルサンは、昨年で100周年を迎えました。マルサンはもともとですね、日本で初めて、ゴジラ、ウルトラマンのソフビを製造した会社です。もともとマルサンという会社は千田直樹という者が、1923年に創業しました。
Marusan started manufacturing a range of tin toys in the early 1950s.
有名なのがマルサンはキャデラックという、アメリカのですね車を製造したのが、有名で、今ではコレクターのブリキのコレクターの中では、有名なアイテムになっています。
The company started to move away from tin as a material and moved into soft vinyl.
もともとは、ソフビはアメリカから来ました。マルサンの最初のソフビ商品はマミードールという赤ちゃんの人形でした。
Then, in 1954, Godzilla gave birth to a new genre, and a kaiju pop culture exploded. Marusan made a tin Godzilla toy in 1964, and 2 years later, they launched their first Sofubi range called the Ultra Q series.
僕が幼稚園の時に、当時ウルトラ Q という番組が放送されていましたが、その後ウルトラマンが放送され、ウルトラキャプテンウルトラ、ウルトラセブン、そしてゴジラシリーズといろんなソフビが発売され。
Today, Marusan specializes in making figures for collectors, which can sell for thousands of dollars. But how are these soft vinyl figures made? First, a prototype figure is made from wax. The figure is submerged in a chemical vat, and the wax is melted out of the mold using a process called slash molding. The vinyl material is then poured into the mold and spun in a centrifugal force machine to remove bubbles. Once the mold has finished burning in a hot chemical bath, the vinyl part can be removed from the mold and is now ready for assembling and painting. When it comes to painting the assembled figures, one man is considered the greatest in Japan, and he's been doing one thing and one thing only for 70 years.
ゴジラだとかウルトラマンだとかそういうの作ってますよ。色を塗ってますから。これはスプレーです。これでいろいろと色を塗りますから。あとは目玉なんかは筆で塗ります。こういう筆でね、塗料はいろいろあります。いろんな色を作りますから配合していきます。こういうブルーをこれをシルバー入れればこういうきれいなブルーになります。どうですか？これ今ゴジラに塗っていきますから。
Goto-san's paint jobs are revered by collectors. Meet Jeremy, an American living in Japan who has a rather large toy collection.
I've been living here in Tokyo for the past 20 years. I'm originally from Lexington, Kentucky. I've been collecting toys ever since I was a kid. I started out with Masters of the Universe and He-Man, graduated to Ghostbusters, the real Ghostbusters, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, but I was always a big fan of Godzilla, but there weren't a lot of Godzilla toys available in the United States. Something I didn't really know about until I moved here is Sofubi, and now I think predominantly my collection is made up of at least 50% Sofubi. The toys that are being made today are typically for collectors. It's literally like a handmade sculpture that is handcrafted, hand-pulled, hand-painted. It's no different than getting a handmade piece from your favorite artist or your favorite painter and having it in your home. In this case, you have a sculpture and a painting in one. That's kind of the vibe of Sofubi. This is Gamera, the giant flying turtle monster, and he's one of my favorites. And I had this one painted by Goto-san, so this is a one-off. And this is an original 1966 Godzilla by Marusan. Having something of Godzilla from the 60s is kind of insane to me. This is a cool rendition of Godzilla in his meltdown form. So there's a few versions of this you can find, but they're all gonna cost you, if you're lucky, $500. Most likely it's gonna be over $1,000. You got deep pockets, you know, this is the way to go.
Making these figures is mostly a male-dominated industry, but there are some exceptions. Asaka is working for Marusan as a model maker.
久保朝香です。普段はお芝居、そして歌の活動をしています。2019年からソフビの作成をしております。で、大人になって、2004年からマルサンのイメージガールをやらせていただいてたんですけれども、そこで改めてソフビと出会い、金型というのがとっても重くって、そのソフビの大きさにもよるんですけれども、とても重くて女性では持てない重さだったりします。工場長の方からも女のやる仕事じゃねえよって言われたりして思う自分とそれでもやらせてくれるマルサンの社長上永さん、はい、そういうありがたい環境をいただいているのでありがたくやらせていただこうかと思っております。で2019年には自分のデザインした新しいキャラクター、マーシュというものを台湾の方で発売させていただいて、そこからのめり込んでいったという感じです。これからも女性として堂々と女性らしいソフビも作りたいですし、女性であることを何もマイナスに思わずに強みとして自信持ってやっていきたいと思っております。
One of the most famous areas for Sofubi shopping in Tokyo is Nakano Broadway. So Jeremy took us on a tour.
These are mini retro Sofubi that came out in the early 2000s, like 2004, 2005. These are still affordable though. They're all still like $10 to $40, so you can collect these for a decent price and not go bankrupt if you're trying to get started in collecting Sofubi. So this is my favorite shop in all of Japan, and they sell a lot of weird stuff, but mainly like smaller toys from the 80s and 90s. Yeah, this would be a $100 eraser right here. Or literally called keshigomu, which means eraser rubber. And they are not actually used to erase anything at school. They're just like collectibles. The thing is you have to store them in really good conditions because they could get really sun damaged easily, they can get moldy easily. So, you know, the rarity is gonna go up and up and up and on this kind of stuff because they don't really make these kind of toys anymore here. It's only like $35. But since I bought those other things, that's about all the money I have brought with me today. And I try to keep it to what cash I bring with me so that I don't go overboard and upset the wife.
With the growing popularity of monster movies, it looks like Sofubi won't be going anywhere anytime soon.
I think humans have always been fascinated with giant monsters, and Japanese films from the 50s and 60s are some of the very first really popular giant monster movies. Now we are kind of remaking them in modern movies in not just Japan but in the US, and they're taking off with a whole new generation. So yeah, it's wild to see the longevity of Kaiju.
今からどれぐらい前でしょうか、そういったおもちゃは子供のものだみたいなところから大人のコレクションになった、堂々と怪獣のおもちゃを買える時代になった、そういったことがますます、怪獣がずっと人気が続いている理由の一つではないかと思っています。